Guiding Instructions on the View of Great Shentong Madhyamaka, Light Rays of the Stainless Vajra Moon, by Jamgön Kongtrul. The ultimate Dharma of irreversibility was set forth as the heart essence of the Dharma by the teacher and those who uphold the teachings. Here I write a brief summary of Guiding Instructions on the Madhyamaka view. This has 4 parts. 1. The source from which it originates. 2. The actual guiding instructions on the view. 3. Explanation of the benefit. 4. The lineage. 1. The source from which it originates. This has 2 parts. 1. General source. 2. Specific source. 1. General source. In general, it is not that expedient and definitive meanings are presented in terms of there being anything deceiving or untrue in the words of the victor, but in terms of the difference of the minds of certain persons being able or not being able to engage the inconceivable object of all Buddhas. Based on this difference, in the manner of spoon-feeding children, the first wheel of the words of the Buddha causes renunciation of samsara, the middle one puts an end to clinging to characteristics, and the last one distinguishes well the actuality of the basic nature in terms of existing, non-existing, being, non-being, and so on. Therefore, the first one is of expedient meaning, the second one is a mix of expedient and definitive meanings, and the final one is the unsurpassable definitive meaning. This is how it is established through the scriptural source, that is, the Sandhi Nirmochana Sutra. For not only are we unable to step over this and other such presentations by the victor and his children, but this is also established through the direct perception of profound actualities becoming progressively clearer and perfectly complete. Nevertheless, the second wheel teaches the way in which the seeming appears by identifying what does not exist as being, in fact, non-existent. And the final wheel teaches the way in which the ultimate is empty by identifying what exists as being, in fact, existent. Therefore, Ratnakarashanti and others assert that both the middle and the final wheels, as well as the 2 great charioteers, Nagarjuna and Asanga, who were the founders of the systems that are based on these 2 wheels, have the same platform of intention. The system that is based on the 20 sutras of the heart of the definitive meaning in the last wheel, the 5 dharmas of Maitreya, and the texts of Nagarjuna, Asanga, and their successors is known in this land of Tibet as Shentong Madhyamaka, since the time of the pair that consisted of the translator Su Gawe Dorje and Tsen Kawo Che up to the present. Among its various traditions of explaining and listening that arose, the 3 great system-founding charioteers are the all-knowing Rangjung Dorje, the omniscient Dölpopa, and the omniscient Drime Öser. Also the 7th Lord, Silung Panchen, Taranata, Denpe Nyingje, and others, who definitely dwelled on the bhumis of the noble ones and were endowed with the Dharma eyes of the impartial spiritual friends of the fully perfect teaching, determined this system through the triad of study, explanation, and meditation, and all their discourses became supports of this system. Moreover, the final intention of all noble beings who unmistakably see the basic nature through the union of study, reflection, and meditation must come down to nothing but this. 1.2. Specific source. As for the specific profound guiding instructions on the view, there are 2 systems. 1. The system of the common guiding instructions on the view in which Lord Maitripa emphasized the intended meaning of the Uttaratantra, and that was transmitted through the great pillar of central India, Ratnavajra, the Kashmiri Sajjana, and so on. And 2. The Kagyu system bestowed upon Venerable Marpa from Lodrö through the path of giving the empowerment of transferring blessings, the uncommon Mahamudra of the union of sutra and mantra that is known to everyone. Among these, it is the former that is to be explained here. 2. The actual guiding instructions on the view. This has 2 parts. 1. The sutra system as it stands on its own feet. 2. The manner in which this is connected to the profound system of mantra. 2.1. The sutra system as it stands on its own feet. This has 2 parts. 1. What is to be understood. 2. The manner in which this is made a living experience. 2.1.1. What is to be understood. Trust in causes and results being undeceiving is taught to be the correct view of worldly people, which is taken as the basis here. On top of that, one needs to rely on an unmistaken profound view that makes one go beyond the 3 realms. In that regard, Shravakas familiarize with personal identitylessness, Pratyeka Buddhas with the lack of real existence of the apprehended, Yogacaras with wisdom empty of the duality of apprehender and apprehended, and common Madhyamikas with the meaning of having determined all phenomena to be empty of any essence of their own. Through that, they all make their individual experiences. However, due to being ensnared by the triad of mistaken minds, discriminations, and views, they do not determine non-dual wisdom, and thus find themselves in places far away from Buddhahood. You may wonder, so who does experience non-dual wisdom? The non-dual wisdom that actually fulfills this definition is seen by the wisdom of the noble ones and the one that is concordant, by those ordinary beings who have purified their mind streams through uncommon study, reflection, and meditation. The latter are twofold. 1. The Nisvabhavavadins first resolve through the 5 great Madhyamaka reasonings that all phenomena, from form up through the knowledge of all aspects, just like the horns of a rabbit and the son of a barren woman, are emptiness, in that they are neither observable as anything nor established as anything in terms of the basic nature, with this emptiness appearing as dependent origination and dawning in an unimpeded manner. During the main practice, just as both a rubbing stick and the wooden support to rub it against are consumed by the fire they produced, and the fire itself also disappears on its own in the end. After clinging thoughts have been evaluated by discriminating thoughts, discriminating prajna itself settles into being unobservable. When these nisvabhavavadins, without thinking of it as anything or mentally engaging in it as anything, meditate within the state of the space-like realization of identitylessness in the manner of not meditating, many samadhi doors of the union of calm abiding and superior insight, such as the jewel lamp, arise. At that time, if they recognize this state well through pure scriptures and pith instructions, after their mistaken modes of apprehending have become pure, their prajna takes a leap so that they will realize the view of the uncommon great Madhyamaka. However, the Samadhi Sambhara Parivarta says, one's samadhi may be stable, but if one entertains clinging to it, it is called the behavior of children, and nirvana will not be attained. Therefore, some who flatter themselves by taking their experiences of emptiness, at which they arrive through conceptual examination and analysis to be the true nature of phenomena, and say, the great Madhyamaka is like ours alone, but all others are wrong, deviate from emptiness and mistake it as the path. Some do not become liberated in mind's own essence that is beyond mind, but simply count the arising and ceasing of mind's moments. Mistaking that for being Mahamudra, they deviate from emptiness as the fundamental ground of stable experience. Apart from the greater or lesser degrees to which they merely analyze names, both are equal in not being able to transcend the 3 realms. Hence, to enter the door to omniscient wisdom through rock meeting bone in the sense of unmistakenly understanding, experiencing and realizing scriptures, reasonings, and pith instructions, one needs to strike the essential points of the view, meditation, and conduct that are not contradictory to anything, and yet are more eminent than anything. 2. As for the Yogacaras, who rely on the 5 dharmas of Maitreya, it is best if they engage in the preliminaries of cutting through the reference points of the adventitious appearances of mistakenness, the bearers of the nature of phenomena, through the scriptural system of the middle wheel of the words of the Buddha, together with the commentaries on its intention. If they are not able to deal with that much elaboration, they must definitely train in the 5 dharmas of Maitreya, or at least the Uttaratantra. If they are not even able to do that, they should contemplate what the Mahayana Sutra Lankara says. The mind is aware that nothing other than mind exists. Then it is realized that mind does not exist either. The intelligent ones are aware that both do not exist, and abide in the Dharma Dhatu, in which these are absent. Accordingly, since beginningless time, based on the adventitious stains that are the factor of being ignorant about one's own mind, and from the perspective of no examination and no analysis, one's own mind appears as all kinds of delusive subjects and objects, just like the mistaken appearances in a dream. However, if analyzed, since they are not established as anything whatsoever, but are empty of any essence of their own, all appearances are the magical creations of mind alone. Therefore, that the apprehended, emerging as if it were outer reference, appears and yet is without any nature of its own, like a reflection of the moon in water, is the basic nature of seeming reality. Also, the mind that is the apprehender does not abide anywhere on the outside or the inside, nor is it established as any entity of shape or color. The 8 collections of consciousness, together with their various elements that arise from the continuum of clinging to an identity, being mistaken about what does not exist, through treating it as if it existed, are primordially empty, just like a flower in the sky. However, to correctly realize the wisdom empty of the duality of apprehender and apprehended, the nature of phenomena that pervades everybody from Buddhas to sentient beings, the Sugata heart, the natural luminosity that is primordially never tainted by adventitious stains, the basic nature of ultimate reality, and then to rest in meditative equipoise within it, is the intention of the 5 dharmas of Maitreya. One must engage in at least that much analysis as a preliminary, and it is thus that the freedom from all extremes is determined. Thereafter, what is called making union with a living experience refers to dwelling in the natural state of the basic nature, self-arising wisdom. The manner of being empty is called being empty of thoughts of clinging to any extremes of reference points. The manner of realization is called realization through personally experienced wisdom. 2.1.2. The actual manner in which this is made a living experience. This has 3 parts. 1. Preliminaries. 2. Main part. 3. Subsequent attainment. 2.1.2.1. Preliminaries. According to the progression of purifying the coarse, subtle, and very subtle stains of the Sugata heart, which is like a wish-fulfilling jewel, in agreement with the first wheel of Dharma, you need to reflect and meditate as described in the 4 synopses of the Dharma. Thus reflect as follows. 1. The end of being born is death. The end of coming together is separation. The end of accumulating is the exhaustion of what was accumulated. The end of rising is falling. Thus all these conditioned phenomena are even more impermanent than bubbles and lightning. 2. Based on being appropriated through karma and afflictions, the 5 skandhas such as form circle in and fall into the 3 realms, just like flies caught in a jar. This circling has the nature of suffering, is moved through suffering, and is trapped in suffering. 3. Since all seeming phenomena from form up through the knowledge of all aspects are not really established, they are empty. 4. The great perfect nature that represents the identitylessness of the duality of apprehender and apprehended is the basis that is empty of all phenomena and is beyond the misery of adventitious mistakenness, is the supreme permanence, eternity, and peace. While reflecting like this, verbally recite the following again and again. Everything conditioned is impermanent. What is contaminated is suffering. All phenomena are empty and identityless. Nirvana is peace. You should gain certainty about this in detail through blending the common preliminaries that appear in the texts on the stages of the path with your mind stream. 2.1.2.2 Main part. This has 3 parts. 2.1.2.2.1 Taking refuge and generating bodhicitta so that this becomes the path of the uncommon Mahayana. Taking refuge. Naturally luminous mind is the pure Tathagata heart, but this appropriation of sentient beings is free from limit and non-limit. The color of gold and the pure gold in gravel become visible through cleansing it. So it is with the alaya of the skandhas in a sentient being. Buddha is neither a person nor the skandhas, but uncontaminated wisdom. Having familiarized with it, it is always peacefulness. In it I take my refuge. Generating bodhicitta, that mind's natural luminosity is associated with mentation and so on. Afflictions and a self is what the Supreme Speaker has taught. In order to dispel these, I shall cultivate the Supreme Path. Say these verses while remembering their meanings. 2.1.2.2.2 Resting in meditative equipoise in non-conceptual freedom from reference points in accordance with the middle wheel, and thus coming to a final resolve about the profound nature of phenomena. On a comfortable seat, assume the essential points of the body posture in accordance with the usual approach. Cultivate longing devotion. If you have determined the view previously through study and reflection, recollect that view, and then rest in meditative equipoise. If you lack proper study and reflection, give rise to the understanding of personal identitylessness through determining that this mind of yours is not established as any essence whatsoever, the understanding of phenomenal identitylessness through resolving that all appearances of objects are not established as anything other than your own mind's aspect of appearance, and the understanding that the inseparability of mind and appearances is the equal taste of apprehender and apprehended, just as waves are not other than water. Then be neither distracted to the outside, nor tightened up on the inside, nor hold on to anything in between. Without losing yourself in neutral and indifferent states, rest spaciously like the sky. If your mind does not stay put through that, but moves, since any appearances of the 6 collections of consciousness that emerge are emptiness. When you sustain mind's own peacefulness and self-liberation without engaging in adopting or rejecting, hope or fear, and accomplishing or blocking, the signs of mind's being still will gradually occur. Then, through searching for the mind, as found in the guiding manuals, the resolve that its nature is primordially free from reference points arises. Since there is nothing to meditate on apart from solely recognizing this basic nature free from reference points, rely on the mindfulness of simply not being separate from this recognition. This is also taught as being uncontrived, being fresh, and whatever is emerging being the natural state. Therefore, no matter how your own lucid and empty mind without grasping may appear, be it still, moving, joyful, or sad, sustain just that in an uncontrived manner. Other than that, without becoming fettered by any efforts in terms of factors to be relinquished and their remedies, let the basic awareness, rikpa, that is without foundation and on which one cannot meditate, rest. Through that, the ultimate union of calm abiding and superior insight of the Mahayana takes place. No matter how certain avenues of experiences and certain qualities of the path may arise during the phases of these steps of calm abiding and superior insight, you should recognize their own essence without being attached or clinging to them. This is the profound essential point. Verbally, you should recite the following and remember its meaning. The basis is emptiness. The path is signlessness. The fruition is wishlessness. 2.1.2.2.3 Upon the arising of any suitable samadhi of calm abiding and superior insight, distinguishing well between existence, non-existence, and so on, and pointing them out in accordance with the final wheel and the Vajrayana. If you have a rough overview of understanding the discourses of the Buddha and the commentaries on the major scriptures, just that will suffice here. But if you do not have that, at least the reading transmission of Dölpopa's Mountain Dharma, the Ocean of the Definitive Meaning, should be given to you. And based on that text, you should realize the view as well as you can. Through that, you will comprehend that through mind's essence is taught, through many synonyms, such as the emptiness endowed with all supreme aspects, natural luminosity, the Tathagata heart, suchness, emptiness, Mahamudra, and Aham, doing so is untouched by any flaw of contradiction. Thus you will be free from flaws as expressed by the following words. Emptiness and identitylessness are taught in all the discourses of the Buddha. Foolish people who do not understand the meaning of emptiness and identitylessness will be ruined. Then, through relying on the 2 realities and the 4 reliances, the ultimate definitive meanings of the discourses of the victor and the wisdom to be experienced by you will communicate, and thereby your cultivation of the path will become meaningful. Thus, all phenomena that consist of the imaginary adventitious mind are empty, just like a gathering of clouds. However, the nature of phenomena, the Sugata heart that is an uninterrupted stream of lucid awareness, is to be made a living experience through recognizing it as self-arising wisdom. To do so, start by taking refuge in generating bodhicitta as above. As found in the discourses of Jetsun Taranata, cultivate the recollection of the Guru's being a Buddha for 1 session, and at the end recite, the Tathagata is indemonstrable. He cannot be seen with the eyes. The Dharma is inexpressible. It cannot be heard with the ears. The Sangha is unconditioned. It cannot be worshipped with body, speech, or mind. And, since the nature of the Buddha is unconditioned, it is called permanent. What is called space is the nature of the Buddha. The nature of the Buddha is the Tathagata. The Tathagata is unconditioned. What is unconditioned is permanent. Permanent is the Dharma. The Dharma is the Sangha. The Sangha is unconditioned. What is unconditioned is permanent. Reciting this again and again, always recollect the ultimate 3 jewels. Then contemplate the following verses from the Lankavatara Sutra. By relying on mere mind, one does not imagine outer objects. By relying on non-appearance, one should go beyond mere mind. By relying on the focal object of actual reality, one must go beyond non-appearance. If yogins rest in non-appearance, they do not see the Mahayana. Thus, the realization that the mistakenness of the seeming is mere mind is scrutinized by the Madhyamaka without appearances. Going beyond even that, you must engage in the unmistaken way of being of true reality through the Madhyamaka with appearances. Here you may wonder, what is the focal object of actual reality? Just as there are no four elements that are not pervaded by space, there are no knowable objects that are not pervaded by the Dharmakaya of Buddhas. Also, in the suchness of Buddhas, oneself, and all sentient beings, there are no distinctions of good and bad, big and small, high and low, and so on. Furthermore, the naturally abiding disposition, or the basic element that is able to produce the Buddha attributes and has been obtained through the nature of phenomena since beginningless time, exists in all living beings who consist of the life force breath. Therefore, all sentient beings possess the Tathagata heart. In order to bring that to mind clearly, recite Uttaratantra 1.28. Since the perfect Buddhakaya radiates, since suchness is undifferentiable, and since the disposition exists, all beings always possess the Buddha heart. The Dharmakaya of those who are pure, the suchness of those who are both impure and pure, and the disposition of those who are impure exist in the following manner: a Buddha in a decaying lotus, honey amid bees, kernels in their husks, gold in filth, a treasure in the earth, a sprout, and so on, from a small fruit, a statue of the victor in a rotten garment, the Lord of humans in the belly of a lowly woman, and a precious image in clay. Just as these exist, the basic element dwells in sentient beings, obscured by the adventitious stains of the afflictions. Recite this and reflect on its meaning. Everything that is separable, such as karma, causes and results, karmic maturations, afflictions, skandhas, dhatus, ayatanas, and dependent origination, has not only never existed ultimately, but even on the level of the seeming, the Tathagata heart abides such that it is merely associated with these phenomena, but is never tainted by any of them. By contrast, the inseparable Buddha attributes that exceed the sand grains in the river Ganga in number, such as the self-arisen major and minor marks, the powers, the fearlessnesses, the threefold foundation of mindfulness, great love and compassion, and immeasurable samadhis such as the Vajra-like one, and wisdoms such as Dharma Dhatu, wisdom, are present in an intrinsic and primordial manner. Therefore, the Tathagata heart is not empty of them. With trust in the ground that is suitable to be freed from the stains, and is suitable for the qualities to arise, bring the following clearly to mind. The basic element is empty of what is adventitious, which has the characteristic of being separable. It is not empty of the unsurpassable attributes, which have the characteristic of being inseparable. It possesses all the Buddha attributes, which are luminous, unproduced, manifesting in an inseparable manner, and beyond the sands of the river Ganga, in number. Furthermore, Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and others view bliss as suffering, what is permanent as impermanent, what is a self as the lack of a self, and what is pure as impure. They do not understand the meaning to be understood from the words spoken by the victor. The meaning of this is as follows. What lacks a self is called samsara. What is called self is the Tathagata. What is impermanent refers to the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas. What is permanent is the Dharmakaya of the Tathagata. Suffering refers to all Tirthikas. Bliss refers to parinirvana. Impurity refers to conditioned dharmas. Purity refers to the perfect dharmas of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Your own mind as such, the Sugata heart, is endowed with these four perfect dharmas that are beyond mistakenness. Thinking this, bring the following clearly to mind. Because the Dharmakaya is naturally pure, and because it is free from latent tendencies, it is pure. It is the supreme self because the reference points of self and no-self are at peace. It is bliss because the skandha of a mental nature and its causes have come to an end. It is permanent because it is realized as the equality of samsara and nirvana. At present, the Sugata heart, the basis of such distinctive features, that is endowed with the many qualities of freedom of a Buddha, the distinctive features, is the self-aware wisdom that is lucid and unceasing, is the innate natural state, and is experienced through the triad of studying, reflecting, and meditating. Precisely this is what abides as the basis of purification. After what is to be purified, the adventitious stains, has become pure. The result of purification, nothing but this basic nature that abides within you, becomes manifest. This is labeled as the Dharmakaya, free from stains, though it arises as all aspects of the entirety of samsara and nirvana. From the very moment of the arising of these aspects, they do not move away from that ground, just as various kinds of reflections appear in a stainless crystal ball, but from the very moment of their appearing, the crystal and the reflections do not blend. Likewise, no matter how the appearances of the triad of samsara, nirvana, and the path may dawn within the lucid and empty self-awareness that is stripped bare, they are self-arising and self-liberated, never tainting the essence of this awareness. Therefore, with there being no latent tendencies of views and flaws to be removed, and there being no need to newly add any distinctive features that did not exist before, the wisdom of the noble ones rests in meditative equipoise and emptiness. Making this your main practice, cultivate it during as many sessions as is suitable, and sometimes bring it clearly to mind through the following Vajra words. There is nothing to be removed in this, and not the slightest to be added. Actual reality is viewed as it really is. If actual reality is seen, one is liberated. Recite this or reflect on its meaning. These words are also what Venerable Jetsun Taranata has given as an instruction on the profound essential point. If the pair of familiarizing with the Sugata heart, the nature, and reflecting on the qualities of a victor, its distinctive features, are brought together by a mind free from thoughts, this is the supreme path of the Sugata, the definitive meaning. Having rested in meditative equipoise in this way, at the end, contemplate the following statement. Its true nature of being changeless is the same before as after. Accordingly, when this naturally luminous Sugata heart's own face that abides in you primordially and intrinsically has become manifest, after the adventitious stains have been overcome through the correct view and meditation, it is labeled with the name of the result, fully perfect awakening. Thus develop the certainty of trusting in the cause that is the path endowed with that result. Spoken of as luminous by nature, but having been obscured by the thick cloud banks of adventitious, afflictive, and cognitive obscurations, just as the sun and the sky, Buddhahood is endowed with all the stainless Buddha qualities and is permanent, everlasting, and eternal. It is attained based on the two wisdoms that are non-conceptual about all phenomena and discriminate them. Without beginning, middle, and end, undifferentiable, non-dual, freed in three ways, stainless and non-conceptual. This is the nature of the Dharma Dhatu, which is seen by yogins in the meditative equipoise of realizing it. Having developed such certainty, rise from your meditative equipoise. 2.1.2.3 Subsequent attainment. When you engage in the activities of the periods between sessions, have Dharmakaya devotion to the Guru, who excellently teaches the pith instructions on the heart of the matter. Also have the universal pure outlook of knowing that since all sentient beings possess the Tathagata heart, apart from temporarily not recognizing or recognizing their own essence, they ultimately have the character of the 64 qualities of freedom and maturation. Have unbearable compassion for all those sentient beings who do not realize this. There is not even one who has not been your father and mother, and they keep circling only in the vicious cycle of suffering due to wandering around in an endless loop of appearances of mistakenness. Thus, in order that all sentient beings attain the Dharmakaya, the result of freedom that abides in their own ground, through being endowed with the generation of the Mahayana bodhicitta of aspiration and application, relinquish your non-virtues and those of others in all their parts, through realizing that they are emptiness from the very start. Through being free from pride and a pretentious mind, accomplish as much virtue included in the paramitas, such as generosity, as you can. Through not clinging to yourself and sentient beings, practice benefiting sentient beings directly and indirectly as much as you can. Understand that all inner and outer dependently originating phenomena, which consist of the imaginary nature, appear but are empty of any real essence, just like dreams and illusions. In particular, it is taught that in those who have not gathered merit, many shortcomings such as wrong views arise, while one needs to gather the accumulations in order to realize the correct view. Therefore, dedicate the general virtuous actions that are free from wrongdoing and embraced by the generation of the Mahayana bodhicitta up through all particular virtues such as prostrating, circumambulating, and offering clay images and butter lamps as the causes for seeing the Tathagata heart. Through having trust in the permanent three jewels, generally accomplish what pleases them, such as making their representations, venerating them, and praising them, and in particular offer the 7-branch prayer without counting it, but as much as you can. Sometimes the reading transmission of the 20 sutras of the heart of the definitive meaning should be given to you. Also recite them, reflect on their meaning, and explain them to others. Think about authentic commentaries on the intention of the final wheel of Dharma, such as the Uttaratantra and Mountain Dharma, the ocean of the definitive meaning. Without letting study and reflection take away your meditation, and without letting meditation overwhelm your study and reflection, you should unify the accumulation of wisdom during meditative equipoise in order to manifest the naturally abiding disposition and the accumulation of merit during subsequent attainment in order to make the unfolding disposition flourish further. Even if a little bit of the prajna of unmistakably realizing the profound basic nature has arisen, since it covers so much more ground than inconceivable amounts of conditioned virtues, prioritize meditative equipoise. On the other hand, the greatness of the ultimate welfare of others, if there is the study and reflection on the pure discourses of the victor, exceeds the arising of some semblance of samadhi hundreds or thousands of times. Therefore you should not block the one by the other. In all your conduct, without being separated from mindfulness and alertness, you should be embraced by the two kinds of bodhicitta. When you die, you need to practice the manner of consciousnesses entering into ground luminosity according to the omniscient Dölpopa's very special pith instructions on the transference of consciousness. Therefore, you should already familiarize yourself with this from now on. In that way, through the awareness of the yogins becoming absorbed into the luminous emptiness endowed with all supreme aspects, the primordially present Dharmakaya is liberated from the cocoon of the adventitious stains. Its character of very amazing, wonderful, consummate, immeasurable, and unfathomable kayas, wisdoms, and activities is as vast as space, and it serves as the source of fulfilling all desires of sentient beings, just like a wish-fulfilling tree of jewels. Thus its permanent, all-pervasive, and effortless activity will arise in an uninterrupted manner, for as long as samsara lasts. In order to accomplish such swiftly, during the breaks of your sessions, make the general Mahayana dedications and aspirations, such as the aspiration prayer of excellent conduct, and also make this following aspiration prayer. From the Buddha comes the Dharma, and from the Dharma the noble Sangha. From the Sangha the Tathagata heart, the basic element of wisdom, is attained. Finally, the attainment of that wisdom is the attainment of supreme awakening, and so on, that is endowed with the attributes that promote the welfare of all sentient beings. May I attain this. One's own welfare and the welfare of others consist of the ultimate kaya, and the seeming kaya that is based on it, respectively. May I swiftly attain the 64 qualities that are the results of freedom and maturation. May I always engage without effort, in an all-pervasive manner, in the constitutions of those to be guided, the means to guide them, the activities of guidance that suit the constitutions of those to be guided, and in arriving at the proper place and time for this activity, through the virtue I obtained from having properly studied, reflected, and meditated on the 7 topical points, the 3 jewels, the pure basic element, stainless awakening, the qualities, and activity. May all these beings behold the seer Amitayus endowed with infinite light, and having seen him attain supreme awakening by virtue of the stainless eye of Dharma arising in them. Thus you should seal your practice through aspiration prayers, without hope and fear, as well as dedications without thinking of the 3 spheres. 2.2. The manner in which this is connected to the profound system of mantra. At the time of making this very view a living experience through connecting it to the mantra system, there are also 2 parts. 1. What is to be understood. 2. Main practice. 2.2.1. What is to be understood. These appearances of the 3 existences, the container that is the outer world and the inner content of sentient beings, just as a face is being transferred as a reflection into a mirror, appear as the magical display of inner nadis, vayus, and tilakas, and these 3 abide as the aspects of the other, the circle of the supreme mandala with its support and supported. All of these are true realities, the Sugata heart's own light and own radiance, the Dharmakaya itself appearing as all aspects, and utterly changeless wisdom. This ultimate Dharmadhatu, the union of bliss and emptiness, is unchanging in nature, yet uninterrupted. Therefore it is taught as having the meaning of Tantra. Being the stained suchness during the phase of the ground, it is called the causal Tantra. Since this activity of the nature of phenomena appears gradually during the time of the path, it is also called the path or method Tantra. When it has manifested as being endowed with twofold purity, it is called the Tantra of the completely pure fruition. let alone that those who cling to the manner of the seemings being empty as being supreme do not even see a fraction of this uncommon view. It takes a long time to realize this view, even through the above-mentioned path of the sutra system as it stands on its own feet. Therefore, when you rest in meditative equipoise in the six-branch Vajra Yoga that is more eminent than all other paths of mantra specified by empowerments and samayas, this view will be realized conveniently in a short time and with little hardship. 2.2.2 Main Practice, making this a living experience. The Great Commentary says, just as fire is always present in wood, but is not seen through the methods of cutting and splitting it, through one's hands rubbing a rubbing stick and a wooden support to rub it against, what is present in it will be seen. So mind's luminosity is not seen through conceptual methods of meditation. It will be seen as such through joining the lalana and rasana as one. Accordingly, this naturally luminous and utterly changeless wisdom is present in terms of its essence as the emptiness endowed with all supreme aspects, and in terms of its nature as utterly changeless great bliss. You do not see it through all kinds of meditations that entail thoughts. Rather, through the special methods of non-conceptual samadhi and control through particular activities, you will see it like a reflection in mirror divination. Therefore, in the beginning, through the two yogas of striving that are based on withdrawal and dhyana, through the nocturnal yoga, you will see the signs of smoke, mirages, fireflies, and lamps. Through the daytime yoga with a cloud-free sky, you will see the signs of a blazing flame, the moon, the sun, Vajra Rahu, and the highest elements among these signs, lightning up through the great blue sphere. Through resting in meditative equipoise day and night, by taking the empty forms that are these fully complete 10 signs as objects, there is an experience of the emptiness of all aspects appearing as entailing all aspects of the three realms. Then, based on the branches of prana, dexterity, pranayama, and retention, the bliss of melting is induced. Through the branches of recollection and samadhi, the ultimate utterly changeless bliss is accomplished. Through stopping the breath of the latent tendencies of transference, the mistaken appearances of the seeming are forcefully brought to an end, and thus unassailable pure appearances unfold without any limit or end. That is, this very Dharmakaya, free from stains, which is endowed with the paramitas of purity, self, bliss, and permanence, pervades all of space, and is the primal Buddha present in oneself since the very start, becomes manifest. During these stages, the aids of samaya and pure conduct are necessary. Having understood the way of practicing this according to the discourses of the Dharma Lord and his successors, as well as the pith instructions of the Guru, you should familiarize with it in a one-pointed fashion. 3. The benefit. At the end of the age of strife, since the 5 degenerations are rampant, the 28 degenerations of the view arise. Since sentient beings have little merit, they have no respect for the sutra collection of the heart of the definitive meaning. Not only do they remain idle without familiarizing themselves with the meanings discussed in these sutras, but some have wrong views due to lacking trust in the sutra collection of the heart of the definitive meaning, which causes them to fall into the great abyss of the lower realms, which is taught as the lifeline of liberation being severed. The opposite of all this is the benefit of these teachings. The Uttaratantra says that, compared to practicing eminent forms of generosity, discipline, and dhyana for many eons, the benefit of hearing this profound Dharma is greater. In general, the sutras say the following on the benefit of having faith in the Mahayana. Whoever will give rise to faith in the Mahayana will not wander into the lower realms for 1,000 eons. For 5,000 eons they will not be born as animals and hungry ghosts. For 25 eons they will be born in the worlds of the gods and the worlds of Brahma. The sutras of Mother Prajnaparamita say that whoever has heard the Prajnaparamita teachings, upon dying and transiting, will go to the Buddha realms, and, for as long as living there, will serve and honor all sentient beings with all kinds of pleasant items. Also, compared to hearing the Prajnaparamita teachings for eons, to meditate on Prajnaparamita, even for the mere duration of a finger snap, is of greater merit. In particular, the Sandhi Nirmochana Sutra says that if the number of particles on a fingernail and the amount of water in the hoofprint of an ox were proclaimed, in comparison with the number of particles on the great earth and the amount of water in all 4 oceans, they would not even stand up to 100th, 1,000th, or 100,000th part of the latter, or to any descriptions of examples or causes for them. Likewise, as for what are explained as the aspects of the merit that results from having faith in the sutra collection of expedient meaning, up through applying oneself to their forms of meditation, they do not even come close to a fraction of the merit that results from having faith in and meditating on the sutra collection of definitive meaning, nor do they stand up to any descriptions of examples or causes for them. Furthermore, the sutras say, "After I have passed into nirvana, if some among the human beings are able to give rise to pure faith that the Sugata heart exists in all kinds of sentient beings, they are representatives of the Buddha's kindness." The Angulimala Sutra says, "Those who teach the Tathagata heart are called perfect Buddhas, no matter who they are, whether they have afflictions or whether they are without afflictions. And, by virtue of the cause that consists of understanding that the permanent Tathagata heart exists in all sentient beings, one will find all the many supreme forms of bliss and all excellencies that there are in the world. Through having heard about the permanent Tathagata heart, one will always obtain all excellencies in the three times, past, present, and future, and all the bliss in the higher realms and on earth. And, by virtue of the cause that is the merit of having heard about the Tathagata heart, one will be without illness, be without harm, live long, and delight all beings. The Tathagata is permanent, eternal, and enduring. Through having heard that even his parinirvana is without death, one will obtain everything, and will be firm and stable for a long time." The Mahaparinirvana Sutra says, "They teach, the Tathagata heart exists in all sentient beings. These sentient beings who are endowed with immeasurable qualities, these sons of good family who wish for the genuine Dharma, will be purified of the countless evil actions they committed, brain diseases, being struck by contagious diseases, pain, and denigration. And, if someone trusts in the Tathagatas having the property of being permanent, that person is very rare, just like an Udumbara flower. After I have passed into nirvana, if some hear this very profound sutra collection of the Mahayana, and thus give rise to a mind full of confidence, you should know that they will not fall into the lower realms in future times for 100,000 eons. And sons of good family or daughters of good family should make efforts in understanding the sutra in this way, thinking, the Tathagata is permanent, the genuine Dharma will not vanish, the Sangha will not become non-existent. Having done so, just like me, they too will arrive at the abode of a Buddha. And, for example, just as there will be no sounds of hustle and bustle in the south when the sun shines, when this great Mahaparinirvana Sutra arises, merely through hearing it, the hosts of evil deeds that consist of the defeating offenses and the actions of immediate consequence will swiftly become non-existent. Upon having heard this Mahaparinirvana Sutra, even if a son of good family or a daughter of good family were to think, I do not need awakening, or did not wish to generate bodhicitta, no matter whether they did so due to competing with others, were made to do so by others, were dependent on others, or did so for the sake of gain, service, and verses of praise, the cause of awakening will enter all the pores of the bodies of such persons, just like the spring sun. And those who generate bodhicitta with Buddhas as many as the sand grains in the river Ganga will at a later time not give rise to a mind of abandoning what is without equal, but will have faith in it and make all beings understand it in detail through their words. Those who generate bodhicitta with Buddhas as many as the sand grains in 8 times the river Ganga will at a later time not give rise to a mind of abandoning what is without equal, but will request this scripture, listen to it, write it down, retain it after having written it down, uphold it, read it, teach it, conceal it, protect it, explain it, venerate and pay homage to its volumes out of loving kindness for the whole world, make others do so too, regard them with the same respect as for the Guru, and also completely realize its meaning. Through these and other passages, the benefit of these teachings is taught in detail. In brief, the omniscient Dölpopa instructed, if one will attain Buddhahood merely through having heard the name Sugata heart, what need is there to mention confidence in and respect for it, as well as familiarizing with it after having manifested it? Therefore, the learned ones who are endowed with compassion should teach it even at the cost of giving up their own lives and so on, and those who strive for liberation should search for it and listen to it even at the cost of crossing a large pit of fire. This should be held as the heart essence. 4. The lineage. Up through the omniscient Taranata, the lineage is as in his supplication to the Shentong lineage. After the Jetsun, the lineage went through Jaltseb Nartongpa Lodrö Namgyal, Ngawang Trinle, Kunsang Wangpo, Tsewang Norbu, Denpe Ninje, Karmapa Dudol Dorje, and the protector Maitreya, the perfect Buddha Pema Nyingje Wangpo. When I went before him, based on a manual with guiding instructions on the view by the 13th Lord Karmapa, an excellent stream of blessings as well as the maturing empowerments and the liberating instructions of Kala Chakra were bestowed upon me, and in that way there is another pure mode of this lineage. Though the profound view is the definitive meaning of the Buddha's discourses, those who realize it are few. Since the regent Maitreya is without mistakenness, please explain and listen to the Mahayanottara Tantra. Though the Vajra Yoga is the ultimate way to make this a living experience, those who use it in meditation are few. Through having trust in the king of Tantras, please do not salivate over what is inferior. Though ever-excellent conduct has little obstacle while covering a lot of ground, it is difficult to perform properly. Please keep the Pratimoksha and Bodhisattva vows well through training in them, by taking the life examples of the former masters as witnesses. If view, meditation, and conduct are pure, the two welfares, one's own and that of others, will be accomplished swiftly. This teaching is asserted by the learned and is not something self-styled. It is the quintessence of the words of the Buddha and the treatises. Through this virtue may I and all sentient beings, through relinquishing the 5 great flaws and attaining the 5 great qualities, manifest the ultimate Dharma Dhatu. This was written at the great Dharma seat of glorious Shentong by the idle monk Yönten Gyatso, who attained confidence through understanding the basis of emptiness, the Sugata heart, according to the position of the holder of the teachings of the glorious Jonang with the name Kedrup Ngawang Chöpel Gyatso. In all my lives may I have the good fortune of studying, reflecting, and meditating on the teachings that are the heart of the definitive meaning.